that $37 run, 94. Oversold from that $37 run. We've had a few additional drops here. I'm wondering about Matterport. Will it be worth your while to write $25 calls? You need to be paid a decent premium for the offer, because in the case of Matterport, you cannot write weeklies. By the way, the Dow's now up 407 points. We're approaching that 433 point loss from yesterday. We're approaching that. 404 gain right now in the Dow, S&P up 35, NASDAQ up 167. We got this Matterport 2305. I mean, if it wants to go up a little more, $23.50, $24, writing 25s might be an idea. But you know what Matterport can do, and so do I. We've seen this go up $3-4 in a day. We're up 161. I shouldn't say only. We're up 161 a share. That's pretty good. But it could be double this, the way this thing's going. SoFi 1508 up 49 cents now. Rocket Lab 1195 up 6 cents. GameStop down only 18 cents. It's now down 14 cents. 157 on GameStop, down 14 cents. We're about to go green on your GameStop from what I can sense. I just sense it's doing a little gyration here, but it might just push into the green. ME 671 up a dime. Spire up 13 cents to 352. That is so oversold. ATIP 324 up 15 cents. SmartRent up 31. Cyxtera up 41 cents to 12.21 a share. All-time high right now. Again, this has been now a week of hitting new all-time highs every day or two. We seem to be hitting new all-time highs. The volume on Cyxtera with a 41-cent gain, 13,700 shares. And I kind of wonder, because Cyxtera is redeeming out those warrants, they are forcing people to get rid of the warrants and turn it into stock. This could help stock volumes. That might be part of the plan here, to get warrants out of there, turn them into stock, and now we have more shares in the pool that can trade, more liquidity. That is a good thing, because Cyxtera sure needs more trading and is not trading enough stock to give me mega confidence. I want volume here, baby. I want millions of shares a day. I don't know if we're going to get it with this deal. It'll help. SmartRent up 31 to 969. The volume on that one, 15,000 shares, unbelievable. ATIP with a 14-cent gain, volume 125,000. Spire 15-cent gain to 354, the high of the day. Volume 31,000 shares. We're just not seeing the numbers. It's just not there. The stock was in the 360 range yesterday. The stock was in the 390 range last week. In the last month, we have come from the $5 range down to here, and in 3 months, we've come from the $19 range all the way down to here. So this stock has a long way to recover from, and today could be the first day of many, we hope. ME up 3, Matterport up $1.33 to $22.72, GameStop down 43 cents, 156.71, SoFi up a quarter to 14.84, Rocket Lab up 3, 11.92. The Dow right now holding a 345 gain after touching 400. We are at up 35 on S&P, and we're up at 130 on NASDAQ. Again, the first half hour to an hour is the shakeout. How strong is the buying really, and how deep are the pockets of the buyers? This is what we're going to find out very quickly here. Is this just a flash in the pan, dead cat bounce, or what? GameStop just popped up 32 cents right now to 157.46. It just had been a little higher than that. The high of the day now, 158.47 on the stock. It just touched that a few moments ago. We're at 157.46, so we're just getting a little bit of a pop here on GameStop. We'll see if it continues. The volume at the moment, 129,900 on GameStop, and that is not heavy by any means. It's a 32-cent gain at the moment, 157.46 on GameStop. All right, let's see here. Up 85, 157.99. Looks like 158 is around the corner to be broken again on the GameStop. Fine with me. Get into that 163.65 neighborhood. That's where I'd like to see this thing pop to. It can do it at any time. It's just a matter of how fast. We'll have to wait and see. Every trade is an adventure. What can I say? We're holding green more or less. We're down $1 on Home Depot. We're still up 324 on the Dow. Apple up 121. Microsoft up 315 a share. Tesla up $16. Apple did touch 172 this morning. I'm kind of wondering if Apple on a second buy wave, if that's what we're going to get here. A little pause at the moment, only 14 minutes in, and then another wave of buy. Could Apple reach 174.75? We'll see. That might be a short opportunity. I don't know. Mention that to Nick if he's out there. Anyway, there you go, everybody. Thank you. Let's see. Rob is saying, I got a 170 covered call.
Well, the 15th letter of the Greek alphabet is dominating thoughts in the financial world at the moment, as everywhere else, of course. And news that it now accounts for 3/4 of COVID cases in the United States put the wind up share market investors last night, and the main index there fell more than 1%. Clearly, nobody knows yet whether to be worried that it's more infectious than Delta or relaxed because it's milder, probably. Here's a chart of global cases and deaths per million of population. And you can see that in terms of cases, each wave is roughly the same, but each peak of deaths is lower than the last one. And Omicron has had a bit of an impact on consumer confidence in Australia ahead of Christmas, but not much of one. The fall in the past week doesn't really disturb the improving trend yet. And the share market here rallied almost 1% today, mainly because of a 5% lurch higher by CSL, recovering some of last week's big fall after it announced plans to sell discounted shares to fund the takeover of Swiss company Vifor Pharma. Other gains included Magellan, recovering 4% of yesterday's 33% shocker. Among the biggest falls were lithium stocks Pilbara Minerals and Vulcan Energy. Oil fell nearly 5% last night because of Omicron, but iron ore jumped 4%. And finally, the Australian dollar held steady at 71.1 US cents after the minutes of the Reserve Bank Board's December meeting were released, confirming what everyone thought, which is that it will probably start tightening monetary policy in February, not by raising interest rates, but by not buying any more government bonds. And that's finance.
And it is an industrial dispute rarely seen between an airline and aircraft maker. Now, Qatar Airways has said it had started proceedings in a UK court against plane maker Airbus. It's in a bid to resolve the dispute over skin flaws on A350 passenger jets. This has, however, brought two sides closer to a rare legal showdown over aviation safety. Well, the companies have been locked in a row over months for damage, including blistered paint and corrosion to a sub-layer of lightning protection, which Qatar Airways says has now led to grounding of 21 of its A350 jets. Airbus insists carbon composite passenger jets are safe to fly despite some surface degradation, while Qatar Airways says it is too early to say whether safety has been compromised. The dispute came to a head last week when Airbus in fact it accused Gulf Airline of misrepresenting the problem as a safety issue. It's rarely done by aircraft makers. Airbus also threatened to call for an independent legal assessment. But yesterday, Qatar Airways hit back saying it had taken its complaint against Airbus to the High Court in London. In a statement made on yesterday, Airbus confirmed it had received a formal legal claim. Airbus said it intends to
Stock
rigorously
wants to pop
defend
a
its
couple of bucks.
position.
You're laughing.
Qatar Airways denies that surface flaws, which witnessed while Oliver has left deaths with a lock market appearance. They properly understood and said it wanted the others to mount a
Labour
whole
colleague Matt
investigation.
Rickford is making rules, so we cannot unilaterally resolve these, but I hope we will get
WION
movement
now available in your
find
country.
better
Download
ways
the app
forward
and get all
on this. We will, after the announcements I've made today, we will have further consultation with businesses to see what additional support can be made available from the additional funding and what way it is best to make that available.
The hotel. And in front, he stopped in front of the car and he looked at us very strangely. And I said, well, what happened? He said, I think it's the last time I will see you.
But I agree,
Why?
I said it myself
Because
in my
it will be
statement. It will
difficult
not
and maybe
fully
you don't want to
compensate
see me
businesses.
again.
That's why I
So it
think
depends
there
if
should
we
be
have
the
time
reintroduction
and
at
if you are
this stage
interested to
of
visit certain
at
things,
least a
we could
targeted
help you
funding
and,
scheme,
you know, bring
in
you
order
by
to
car
help
there and
the
there,
most
there,
For the
there.
first time
Do you
ever
want
in
to
the
go?
history of
For the
Dakar,
next 3
weeks
weeks,
under the watchful eye of his Soviet minders, Nureyev went everywhere with Pierre Lacoste and his friends, visiting the sights of Paris,
I
the
will
bars
again
and
take
the
away the
restaurants.
points on
You have a lot of
self-isolation.
caprice like it.
The premise
When
of
we
that
would say,
was,
what do you like
again,
to
I
drink?
come back to
I want a
that we have a
Coca-Cola, I want a
limited
cup of tea, and I
decisions
stop
to make.
one
So
day.
I think
there
it's
will be
like
like
a small side.
But he was very young.
Yes,
over a wider
Dan was crossing fingers here. So inspired by games.
Then there was the dub. Nureyev was understandably nervous about performing in the West for the first time, but he asked Pierre to come
So until the day of the class, I was astonished because there are so many courses in battery and everything, and it really made us laugh. So after the class, we meet each other and he said, what did you think about this? I said, it's very simple. If you dance the way we dance the class today, it will be a great heaven because you dance
See how that works.
yes, we are
That's a
surprised and and we went with Clarissa and myself in the first hour of the conference. And when the conference up, we saw Rudolph running, and when he danced the variation, he danced like an angel. So it was a great experience.
Tons of stuff happening. All at the same
dressed
time.
in simple black shoes designed himself and herself. The young student
That about 2236.
At last, the day came for the curious to leave for London,
On
the
some of
next
these
stage of
stops.
their tour.
Around 9
Pierre
cents on
Lacoste
thing.
Artificial intelligence can help humans do a lot of things, but how reliant have we become on it? In his third lecture, Professor Stuart Russell examines the impact of AI on the economy and how the world might adapt as work is increasingly done by machines.
The BBC Week Lectures at bbcworldservice.com/week lectures. This is the BBC World Service, and on our website you can explore more of our programmes from documentaries to science. Listen and download at any time by going to bbcworldservice.com. On air, online and on smartphone, this is the BBC World Service, the world's radio station.
The government has reintroduced an indoor mask mandate, meaning residents must wear a face mask in all retail and shopping centres, indoor workplaces, hospitality venues and public transport. Residents in aged care facilities will also be limited to 5 visitors per day. Queensland has eased restrictions for close contacts, reducing the isolation period from 14 days to 7. Testing queues remain long across New South Wales and Victoria, with thousands of active cases in both states. And indoor mask rules are set to be discussed during an emergency meeting of National Cabinet today.
There is increasing evidence from around the world that the highly transmissible Omicron COVID variant is less severe than previous strains. One York-based economist has been crunching the data coming out of New South Wales, which has reported over 3,000 cases in the latest reporting period. Andrew Lilly says despite the high infection rate, the data so far suggests that Omicron could cause 50% fewer
inside infected people whose immune systems have already been weakened. People with untreated HIV are a particular cause, and
Airlines are
that
preparing for busy
disease is
travel
still
week coming
very
up.
high in South Africa. BBC's Africa correspondent Andrew Harvey has this report.
I'm just turning into a township called Masakonelere, down Kingston, near Cape Town, Blustery Bay. Now in this township, I'm told 1 in 4 adults is HIV positive, and that number is rising. But we're here not simply because of that, but also because of the role that HIV is believed to be playing
Right on there, it's fine to think of something that's good. Virus. But it took a while, but we figured you out. And now you know, don't pay attention to this, this one, Well, pay attention to the wrong stuff we say. I don't know, whatever it is, it is. We got a 3-point game in the Val led by Nike, Boeing, and American Express. They are saying, 320 game, 26 in this speech, 80 on the last time, 2 bucks a day. It was good, it was about 31 cents. 156.83 on GameStop, it's coming on. We're green on the market right now, we're back to break even. Green here, up 154 on Matterport, and we're down 9 on ND. The greens are coming back in. We're up 61 on Smart Red, 9.99 a share on Smart Red. We're coming back. Definitely coming back. Very good. Now up 320. Apple still only up 57 cents. Sluggish. Stock that wants to be shorted, but I don't know when the right time to pull this
Your
in on
immune
this.
system would kick
We're
a
up
virus
333
out.
Royal Caribbean at
Very
75.99. Golden up $6. Golden up higher, 6.30 now. Golden rising again. Cisco still down 17 on the day
is
at
now
60.
concerned about its potential role
But it did
COVID
mutation
mutation.
when it bounced
In
up
somebody
18
where
cents in the
immunity
last 7
is
minutes
suppressed,
on
that
Cisco.
virus may be able to continue for many months,
On Cisco.
replicating, making more mutating as it
Money on
goes.
Cisco.
Because
We're
of the
looking
sheer
for
numbers
into the 61
In our country, although if people are on their antiretrovirals and viral suppressed, they do restore immunity. So this is not a wholesale problem. But yes,
Two such cases have been found in South Africa and perhaps a dozen more in other parts of the world. Scientists are quick to point out that HIV is not the only
aside from my soul science,
cancer treatment, diabetes, and malnutrition.
legendary.
They also stress that this should not
I chose Mark.
as a specific African problem.
It is simply wrong to say that Africa is the one that's generating
Video
Professor Salim Karim is a prominent COVID expert who fears this continent could be unfairly blamed. And I say
It is very obvious. Variants are being created across the world. We've seen the 5 variants we have right now. They come from 4 different continents. So to scapegoat Africa in a situation where variants have already risen in the other continents is simply outrageous.
have you read about COVID and what it can do?
Back in Masakonelere Township, Professor Becker tries to encourage people to get vaccinated against COVID-19.
Without doubt, in the height of this pandemic and facing a variant like Omicron, we need to vaccinate. We need to get vaccinated. The best vaccines are the ones that are in our arms. And, that message has to go out loud and clear.
For now, Africa's vaccination effort lags far behind the rest of the world. As COVID mutates, much depends on a fairer, faster rollout, global effort to identify those with weakened immune systems, and on helping people living with HIV.
Andrew Hardy. Let's hear from Professor Dinan Pillai, who works at UCL, focusing on clinical population and laboratory-based studies to limit the spread of HIV. What does he make of the suggestion that COVID-19 has mutated in HIV patients?
All viruses mutate, and with this virus in particular, COVID, it is generally a short-lived infection, and where those mutations therefore happen is when it's transmitted from person to person. over a short time, and therefore mutations accumulate as more transmissions occur. But of course, this illustration of, in this case, HIV-infected individuals in whom what's called persistent infection happens, in other words, infection for a longer period of time, then clearly has been shown that mutations can emerge within that one infected individual in the virus there, rather than multiple transmissions. But at this stage, I think it is premature to say that this persistent infection is the cause of mutations emerging there. It may be one significant contributor, but I think it's premature to conclude that it is the way in which these variants emerge.
Oh, okay, but let's extend the theory just a little then. I mean, is it just as likely that the virus could be mutating in people with damaged immune systems, as was alluded to by the scientists in that report we heard around the world, not just in South Africa, but that this is really quite possible in other people with immune suppressed conditions?
I mean, absolutely, and as Karim said in that report, that anyone with a damaged immune system can have this happen. And in fact, if we look at the numbers, there are something like 34 million people infected with HIV around the world, but each year 17 million people are diagnosed with cancer each year, and of course will be on treatment that will suppress their immune system. So the burden of immunosuppression is higher in non-HIV conditions. We also know, and here in the UK, we know of cases of cancer patients in hospital in whom the same sort of observation has been made of long-term infections and emergence of variants. So my conclusion there is that if this is contributing to further variants, then it certainly is not a South African specific issue. It is around the world.
How much then does it complicate our collective efforts to tackle COVID-19?
Well, I mean, that's a very good point. I think the big picture here is that any genetic variation, any set of mutations in this virus will contribute to the potential to make it more difficult to vaccinate against and to treat. But as I mentioned at the beginning, is that that variation can equally happen in those in whom it's transmitting in communities where it's transmitting to one person to another person quickly. And unfortunately, we still have large swathes of the world, both in the north as well as the south, where ongoing transmission is happening. I'm speaking in London at the moment. There's never been such a high rate of transmission of the Omicron variant, and that is the problem. And I would say that the most important thing is to ensure that vaccines, which at least will prevent, if it doesn't prevent transmission, vaccines will likely prevent disease and death from new variants. That's the important priority, I think, for the world.
Indeed, the rollout of vaccines in the global south continues to be a really big issue, and we hear time and again that none of us are safe until all of us are safe. What do you make of what we're hearing from the Serum Institute in India, which of course is one of the largest producers of vaccines, that African countries are not placing orders for vaccines, that this isn't a supply issue?
Well, I mean, I think whereas there may very well be the case that there's insufficient manufacturing potential around the world, and that is something that can be dealt with. We've also got to remember that the orders that have been placed by the resource-rich countries, the huge orders of billions of doses, maybe many-fold their number of their population, it impacts on that, because of course those who put orders in ensure that those who are still to put orders in that may not have the resource up front to be able to do that can order them. So I think there needs to be both increased production, but also an application of real fairness and justification of for vaccines being spread to those parts of the world where, as you said, until where there's ongoing transmission, until we limit transmission around the world, no one is safe. I think it's a really important message.
I wondered just finally, briefly, how you reflect on just this idea that This has been with us for 2 years now, and we are still learning. There is still so much that is unknown.
Well, it is amazing. In fact, I would say, on the other hand, there's actually 2 years into a brand new infection in humans, and we've got to remember all the infections that we have, that we well know about, have come from animals in one way or another. That within 2 years we know a huge about it. The fact that we've got vaccines within a year of a brand new virus coming tells you something about how the potential we have with scientific knowledge to really deal with this. I think what it identifies is still the political issue of ensuring equity around the world to make sure that that scientific knowledge actually translates into benefit for us all.
Professor Dinan Kelly, this is NewsHour. Still to come, we speak to Georgia's former Minister of Education who's been visiting her old boss, Mikhail Saakashvili, in a Georgian military hospital following his prison hunger strike. She told NewsHour he's not in good shape.
He's very weak, definitely very weak, and he lost a lot of weight despite the fact that he's not in hunger strike anymore. And actually, after torture and degrading behavior from the government and from the prison in Kudani, actually he has some kind of psychological problems too. Post-traumatic syndrome, which is also very much clear according to the statements made by the doctors.
Stay with us for that interview. One headline from the BBC Newsroom this hour. A court in London has ordered the ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed, to pay his ex-wife more than $700 million. It's the largest divorce settlement in British history. More on that story later in the programme too. This is Razia Iqbal with NewsHour live from the BBC in London. It is by any measure a flamboyant, colourful and controversial life. From cruise ship crooner to Italy's Prime Minister 4 times, Silvio Berlusconi is a man who has lived life large. He was convicted for tax fraud, has faced a seemingly endless list of criminal charges, and of course there were those infamous sex parties. Now he's being seriously considered as a candidate for president when the country's parliament votes next month. Our Rome correspondent Mark Lowe with this.
Silvione Berlusconi ce la può fare a diventare presidente della Repubblica.
Come Silvio Berlusconi
Penso che Berlusconi non ce la fa.
In his political twilight, he's back in the limelight. Italy's talk shows are debating it, MPs are considering it. Could 85-year-old Silvio Berlusconi, media mogul and football club owner turned Italy's longest-serving post-war prime minister, but also convicted criminal and host of infamous sex parties, really be elected president in January?
Yes, of course. I think it's my dream.
That's Antonio Tajani, who co-founded the party Forza Italia with Silvio Berlusconi in 1993 and is today its vice president.
Berlusconi is a leader, is an entrepreneur, he's a leader in the football sector, he's one of the most important prime ministers in my country.
Does he have the moral fibre to be president of the Italian Republic?
There are a lot of blah 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 on this situation. It's not the picture organized by the left-winger parties, left-winger newspaper, left-wing judges.
He would be 92 at the end of his mandate if he were to be elected. Isn't it time to just move on from the Berlusconi era?
Berlusconi is not only the past. I think also Berlusconi is also the present. Elizabeth the Queen. I love Elizabeth.
So Berlusconi wants to be the king of Italy? Maybe not the king, but the knight, or il cavaliere, as his fans call him, made his career out of a man of the people image. Have you seen the latest poll, he asked reporters a decade ago? When asked if they'd have sex with Silvio Berlusconi, 30% of women said yes, and 70% said, what, again? His sex parties, which he called Bunga Bunga, caught up with him when a 17-year-old Moroccan took part. Berlusconi was convicted for paying for sex with a minor, but then acquitted on appeal, though trials for allegedly bribing witnesses are still ongoing. But it's his myriad gaffes that many will remember, from calling Barack Obama young, handsome and tanned, to stating it's better to love pretty girls than be gay.
Well, of course, certain sentences were shameful.
Lia Quartapelle, the the centre-left Democratic Party.
This risks to be a big own goal by the right wing. The President of the Republic represents national unity, and Berlusconi has been an important figure, of course, in the recent history of our country, but he's been a very partisan figure, somebody that divides the country more than anything else.
Despite it all, he ran again for Prime Minister in 2008 for the fourth time, with a schmaltzy campaign song called Thank Goodness for Silvio, set to a video of happy men and women, all attractive of course. The populist scandal-filled tycoon preempted Donald Trump by more than 2 decades, and, says political scientist Giovanni Orsina, he's not done yet.
Berlusconi has been a remarkable figure of Italian politics, very controversial, and he is looking to be rehabilitated, and he wants the country to accept that he was a statesman and not a convicted person.
His life has been like the soap operas his TV channels brought to Italy. Silvio Berlusconi believes he's played the role of the heartthrob, the hero, the survivor. Could his final part be the comeback kid?
And that report was from Mark Nolan, our Rome correspondent. Now, scientists in the UK have discovered what's believed to be the largest ever fossil of a giant millipede. Totally by chance, Dr. Neil Davis of Cambridge University was the person who found it. I spoke to him a short time ago, and he told me how.
Myself and 2 PhD students were just travelling around Wales, visiting a few geological sites that we thought might be interesting. And this one particular site is in the northeast. We were there at dusk, just about to pack up, and all along sort of a big hole that had formed and then split in two. And in the middle, that's what we found this giant millipede.
Describe it for us.
Well, it's about the fossil itself is about 75 centimetres long, and it clearly looks like the back of a millipede is made of a number of individual segments that taper out to all sides. But the original answer would be about 2.6 metres in length.
And the boulder had fallen and cracked open, exposing the fossil.
Yeah, I mean, the fossil was so large that it was basically a material weakness in the rock. So when the boulder fell and cracked out, that's exactly what it was.
And just rate for us the level of your excitement at this discovery.
Well, to begin with, we didn't entirely believe that's what it was, because we know that there are big acid flows around and footprints of pathways, but nothing is big that has been found. So we did go back. It took a while before we got permission to collect it, and then only after a while we were really confident that yes, that's really what we had found.
So very rare to find something that size. What can you tell us about the period of time that the millipede lived?
So it was in the Carboniferous period, so it was 326 million years ago, and at that time, Britain, as well as much of Europe and North America, was at the equator, and this is how this happened to these animals. They're living on the edge of a big supercontinent that has got early kind of tropical vegetation, there's big trees growing around, but not full kind of swampy cold forests or jungle, but more an open kind of wooded environment with small rivers and so on crisscrossing the landscape.
And what can you tell us, if anything, about how many of these specimens that there might be around? I mean, the rarity of the size of it, but presumably there are others that are a little smaller but would have been something similar.
Well, there are 2 examples that are known from Germany, and they're both much smaller than this, but they're also almost complete. The problem is that when things are big, they don't get fossilized completely, and so we know there's lots of individual legs and fragments of these things that come across Europe and North America, but
This application is needed so humans can know where it's safe to interact with a robot and where it's dangerous. Here we can see the red zone is dangerous and the green zone is safe. So the person has more information about where the robot is moving and what speed it's moving and how to work with that robot.
Today, the symbiosis between science and technology is an inherent feature of any sector's economic development. Kazakhstan, for example, is experiencing explosive growth in markets in which innovation is a key part of business.
platform that's probably the most striking in our sector is the Asti.kz platform. About 11, 12 million people use it. Here in this market they provide payment services. The entire population of Kazakhstan uses them.
Last year, the financial company Kaspi.kz successfully completed an IPO on the London Stock Exchange and became Kazakhstan's most highly valued private company. Today, it's a technology giant that operates 3 platforms: a marketplace, a fintech platform, and a payment system. Another area of Kazakhstan's digital economy is the development of the country's cryptocurrency industry. After the US, Kazakhstan is the world's second largest Bitcoin miner. According to Cambridge University, Kazakhstan's share of the total Bitcoin network hash rate is 18.1%.
Blockchain technology in digital mining gives Kazakhstan the ability to attract billions of dollars of direct international investment, create thousands, tens of thousands of highly skilled jobs, and pay new tax revenues to the budget and attract new technology.
During its years of independence, Kazakhstan has attracted 325 billion euros of direct foreign investments. This has enabled Kazakhstan's economy to remain one of the most dynamic in Central Asia and the post-Soviet space.
This week on Euronews.
The Jupiter is one of the 2 uninhabited islands of Pitcairn in the Caribbean, home to iguanas and other native species. Faced with extinction, the European project is studying this natural reserve in an effort to preserve the environment from tourism and climate change. So let's find out more this week in Smart Regions. Euronews.com.
All the international news available on the go. Download the Euronews app now.
It's Tuesday, the 21st of December, and you're watching Euronews now. Let's take a look at the latest headlines. Omicron fears spread. The World Health Organization urges people to cancel Christmas events and celebrate later. Prisons for rent. After struggling with overcrowding in its cells, Denmark pays Albania 20 million euros to relocate its inmates. And as Turkey, Iran and Russia begin another effort for peace in Syria, we'll talk to an expert about Europe's role in finding a solution.
Millions across Europe are hoping for a festive time this weekend with family and friends, but for the second year running, this could be in doubt. The World Health Organization is recommending cancelling events over the holiday period in the light of growing cases of the Omicron variant coronavirus worldwide. It's a message few want to hear.
All of us are sick of this pandemic. All of us want to spend time with friends and family. But an event cancelled is better than a life cancelled. It's better to cancel now and celebrate later than to celebrate now and grieve later. None of us want to be here again in 12 months' time.
But for most governments, the focus is on booster campaigns or considering possible lockdowns. The Netherlands is already in one of those. Switzerland has announced tight new COVID measures from December the 20th, including making working from home mandatory for all those who can.
To be honest, I find it a bit difficult with the topic of vaccination. Now you're vaccinated and have the feeling that it's good, but somehow you notice that it still doesn't help that much.
In Germany, federal and state governments are considering contact restrictions after Christmas, even for the vaccinated and recovering individuals.
For example, we've reduced the size of groups. In Bavaria, they have already closed bars because of the days and weeks that were hotspots in certain events.
Hotspots, also super spreading events zu vermeiden.
Meanwhile,
Germany's new Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, says the country will reach its target of offering booster shots to at least 30 million citizens by the end of the year.
The jury has begun its deliberations in Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking trial in New York. In its closing statements, the prosecution argued that Maxwell was the key to the whole of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's operation. The defense insists Maxwell is being made a scapegoat for the crimes of the late Epstein, who killed himself in prison. The verdict is expected before Christmas.
U.S. prosecutors called Ghislaine Maxwell a sophisticated predator in their closing arguments in the sex trafficking trial of the British socialite on Monday. 59-year-old Maxwell denies grooming underage girls to be sexually abused by financier Jeffrey Epstein. She could face up to 80 years behind bars if convicted of sex trafficking and perjury charges. Her defense attorneys continue to say that she is being made a scapegoat for crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein. The stage is now set for jury deliberation, and the jury could determine Ghislaine Maxwell's fate by Christmas Day, which is also her 60th birthday. Susan Terfani reporting from New York for Euronews.
Kosovo has reached a deal to rent 300 jail cells to Denmark, and a prisoner room will cost Copenhagen an annual fee of 20 million euros. Authorities say this is to ease overcrowding in the Scandinavian country's prison system, and jail population has had a 20% jump. Inmates sent to Kosovo will be foreigners, subject to deportation after serving their sentences.
The intention is that the prisoners that will serve their sentence here in Kosovo will be prisoners that are expelled from Denmark by the court of law, and there will be, of course, a talk about which prisoners this will entail. But we have already talked about that there will be transfers, that are convicted to terror, that are convicted to war crimes.
Non-profit organizations monitoring the correctional system in Kosovo have said other prisons will naturally be overpopulated in order to make way for the incoming prisoners.
In Raqqa, Syria, the former de facto capital of ISIS, the scars of the fighting are easy to see. It's been 10 years since the war in Syria began. The 17th round of the Astana peace process is underway. Russia, Turkey, Iran, the Syrian government and opposition all sent delegations. However, the West is absent.
No outside powers, the major donor countries like the United States or the European Union, wishes to engage in the reconstruction process to fund that, because they do not wish to give the regime any means of support. So in many ways the situation is stuck.
The UN estimates at least 350,000 people have been killed overall. With issues such as refugees, the release of detainees, the humanitarian crisis, and the possible regrouping of ISIS cells, the delegates will have much to consider at these talks.
Kosovo has reached a deal to let 300 of its jail cells to Denmark at an annual fee of 50 million euro to ease overcrowding in the Scandinavian countries. The inmates sent to Kosovo will be foreign nationals subject to deportation after serving their sentences.
Recently, the prison population in Denmark has jumped nearly 20%.
Thousands of people filled the center of Buenos Aires on day 2 of rallies, marking the 20th anniversary of Argentina's so-called Great Crisis. 39 people accused in a government crackdown during protests over economic meltdown. It led to the resignation of the then President Fernando de la Rúa, who fled the country.
The Carthaginian general Hannibal famously used the route for a surprise attack on the Roman legions. But now, migrants travelling up through Italy are crossing the Alps to make it into France. With less border checks, the route attracts those looking to evade the authorities and move freely.
Now up 280.
However, the mountain pass offers its own challenge.
Now up 263. There you go.
In a desperate attempt for a better life, migrants are risking life and limb on their journey.
We were frozen. We couldn't feel our fingers. We couldn't feel anything. It was very, very cold. We even thought that we would like the police to come and take us to the station so we wouldn't be cold.
Some volunteers have taken it upon themselves to help these weary travelers survive the dangerous peaks.
Why are we doing this? Because sailors never leave a person to die at sea. A mountaineer will never leave a person to die in a mountain. Now there are people who are trying to cross who are in difficulties, and they don't know the mountains, and they put themselves in danger without knowing. So people that know this area will go to the mountains to meet them and help them.
Unlike the Mediterranean crossing that has claimed countless
All kinds of questions coming. Let me finish this bagel. We'll get them.
tragedy thanks to the volunteers.
We're up 261 on the Dow, up 16.7 on S&P, NASDAQ up 39. Oil up 148 to 70.09 a barrel. It's slipping.
Here we go for today's number. It's December 21, 2021. 10 balls. Each ball has a number. Numbers 1 through 10. Swirl the numbers. Pick a number. Today's number is 4. Today's number is 4.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The World Health Organization has warned the Omicron coronavirus variant is spreading faster than even the Delta variant and is infecting vaccinated people at a far higher rate than other forms.
President Biden's preparing to address the nation Tuesday about the government's efforts to combat the COVID-19 Omicron variant, which is rapidly spreading across the United States and the world. The Here in the United States, the Centers for Disease Control is warning Omicron has overtaken Delta as the dominant coronavirus variant, accounting for nearly 3/4 of new infections. The Pentagon said it's dispatching teams of naval doctors
up 281 on the bell. 284 now on the bell, maybe a little higher.
The National Hockey League has canceled games for the rest of December, becoming the first major professional sports league in North America to pause during the Omicron surge. This comes as the NFL set another single-day record with 47 players testing positive for coronavirus infections Monday.
GameStop down 18 cents.
President Biden's delivering a
Come
national
on, GameStop, let's go.
Omicron variant today. The White House will make $500 million. That's $500 million at-home COVID-19 test kits available for free, shipped to the homes of anyone who requests one. The Biden administration is also planning to set up 20,000 new testing sites nationwide. On Monday, the White House said a staffer who was recently with President Biden aboard Air Force One tested positive for coronavirus. Biden has reportedly since tested negative. A new study finds glaciers in the Himalayan mountains shed ice 10 times faster over the past 4 decades than they did over the previous 7 centuries. The study, published Monday in the journal Scientific Reports, estimates that glaciers have lost as much as
295 gain on the bell.
586
Climbing.
cubic kilometers of
303.
ice, enough to raise global
Dow's
sea
up over
levels
300
by
again.
1/20th of an inch.
S&P up over 20
Nearly
now,
2
21.
billion people in South Asia
Nasdaq
rely
up
on
50.
meltwater from the glaciers for drinking water and to
Rocket
irrigate
Lab
their
up 6
crops.
cents and
The
SoFi
Biden
up 31.
administration's announced the most stringent
GameStop down
tailpipe
14 cents
emission
to
standards in
157
U.S.
here.
history. Under the EPA's
Amount of
plan, new
2294
gas-powered passenger
of
vehicles will have to
155.
average at least 55 miles per gallon beginning in
AME down in Nichols,
2026.
Spire up 3,
Critics note the
ATFE
rule
up 8,
change will
Smartland up
effectively
59
restore
cents to
emissions cuts that
997
were
share,
canceled by the Trump
11.99 on 6 share
administration,
up 19.
and say the Biden administration should do much
AMC
more.
up
In a
$1.67.
statement, the Center for
Robinhood
Biological
up
Diversity
32,
said,
Vatic up
quote, these rules
323,
are
Home
little
Depot
more
up
than a
550,
speed bump
IBM
on
up
the road to
$1.64
climate
to
catastrophe
128.70.
when the president
Microsoft
needed
holding
to
a
make
30% gain, but Apple
they
down
said.
29 cents.
In Burma, a BBC
Tesla
investigation revealed the
892,
Burmese military
down
carried out a
719,
series of
low
mass
trade,
killings of
886
civilians
on
in
Tesla.
July that resulted in the deaths of at least 40 men.
Bed Bath Beyond
Several
up 82
witnesses
cents,
and survivors
BlackBerry
told the
up 34,
BBC
Roku up
Burmese
3,
soldiers
7,
rounded up
6,
villagers in
11,
Kani
7,
Township and
17.
separated the men and
Cisco
killed
down
them.
2 cents.
Video footage of the
Come back
killings
again.
appeared to show most of the men killed
again.
were first
Cisco keeps
tortured.
coming
Their
back.
bodies were
It was
buried in
breaking
shallow
line
graves.
goes
Kani
higher,
Township
wants
is
to go
known to
higher.
be a
Low
hub of
today,
opposition to
60
Burma's
bucks. The high
military
today,
dictatorship.
68
An emergency
was the
court in
high today.
Egypt
Right
has
now
sentenced
it's
human rights activist
634
Al-Fatah
down
to an
20.
additional 5 years in prison. The
Or
court
more.
also
So
handed
the
down 4-year sentences
all-time
to other
high,
prominent
68.
prisoners, the human rights lawyer Mohammed
it's
al-Bakr
right
and the
to the
blogger Mohammed Ibrahim, who is also known as Mohammed Oxygen. All
Okay.
3 were charged with, quote, spreading false news, undermining national
Amazon
security.
down $15,
Al-Fatah
Facebook
was a
down 30
leading
cents.
figure in the 2011
Google,
uprising that
down
led to the fall of
40
Egypt's
share.
longtime U.S.-backed dictator Hosni
Costco
Mubarak.
down 12 bucks.
After headlines will
Walmart
go
down
to
17 cents.
Egypt to speak with Allah's aunt, Def Sweat,
American
the
Airlines
great
up
writer.
$1 to 18.30.
In immigration
Netflix up
news, a group of 11
$5.95.
Haitian asylum seekers has filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration accusing the U.S. government of physical abuse, racial discrimination, and other severe rights violations while they were forced to take shelter under a bridge in the borderlands of Del Rio, Texas in September. The plaintiffs are also demanding the U.S. government allow the return of the thousands of Haitian asylum seekers deported from the Del Rio encampment. In a statement, Gerline Joseph of the Haitian Bridge Alliance said, quote, "The stories I heard coming out of the Del Rio encampment will forever haunt me. Mothers with newborns denied basic necessities such as shelter and medical care, children being fed nothing or only bread," she
309
said.
points, almost 310
This
again.
comes as immigrant justice
We've
advocates
got
are
Rocket Lab
condemning
up
the Biden
8,
administration's
and,
ongoing
SoFi
mass
back to
deportation
13.90.
flights
GameStop
of
just
Haitian
went
asylum
green,
seekers.
157.31.
Advocates report the
Apple
U.S.
at
deported
169,
344 people to Haiti Monday alone, including 32 children. The French humanitarian group Utopia 56 has filed a lawsuit accusing British and French officials of involuntary manslaughter and failure to help people in need over the drowning refugees made distress calls to French and English rescue services after their boat capsized and started sinking in the waters off the French port city of Calais. They were ignored. At least 3 of the victims were children. This is an attorney for Utopia 56.
The big denier has a booster shot. There you go.
You're saying that from the moment
and the rescue services, English and French, were informed between 2 and 3 a.m. that this boat was in distress and would have been necessary, and it is a legal obligation that they coordinate and intervene. That was not the case.
The Pentagon has announced new rules aimed at slowing the spread of extremism in the military's ranks. Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said Monday that among other rule changes, soldiers may now be disciplined for liking white nationalist and other extremist content on social media.
You may want to Google this, just to get a handle on it.
In our armed forces,
covered
of
call
course,
is where you
no
have
sort of
to share
honorable
right
or while extremist activity in the force is rare. Any instance can have an outsized effect.
The Southern Poverty Law Center welcomed the changes, saying in a statement, quote, "The commitments made today are especially important considering the outsized role people with military experience played in the deadly violence surrounding the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. More than 80 of the 700 individuals charged by the Justice Department in connection with the Capitol breach have ties to the U.S. military."
Could it be 50? Could it be
The House
100?
Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol insurrection has asked Republican Congressmember Scott Perry to voluntarily submit to an interview. It's the first time the committee's publicly asked a sitting member of Congress to testify about their role in the plot to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Investigators say Perry met with Trump ahead of the Capitol riot and pushed Justice Department officials to block the election results. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports the January 6th Select Committee may refer criminal charges against former President Trump and his allies to the Justice Department. That could include wire fraud charges against Trump and other Republicans who raised millions of dollars off false assertions that the election was stolen, and felony obstruction of Congress charges against those who tried to stop the certification of electoral votes. In New York, Ghislaine Maxwell's sex trafficking trial is now in the hands of the jury. In its closing arguments, the prosecution described the British socialite as a dangerous predator who recruited and groomed economically disadvantaged teenage girls to be sexually abused by convicted predator and sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell faces up to 70 years in prison if convicted of all counts, including sex trafficking of a minor. Actor Chris Noth has been dropped from the CBS drama The Equalizer after being accused of sexual assault by at least 3 women in the past week. Noth is best known for portraying the character of Mr. Big in the HBO Max series Sex and the City and its sequel, which premiered earlier this month. The show's debut triggered 2 of Noth's accusers to come forward in a detailed story published by The Hollywood Reporter last week. A third accuser then spoke to the Daily Beast. None of them have revealed their real names. Noth has also been dropped by his talent management firm as well as the exercise equipment company Peloton, which has pulled his ads. In Minnesota, jury deliberations begun in the manslaughter trial of former Brooklyn Center police officer Kim Potter, who fatally shot 20-year-old black father Dante Wright during a minor traffic stop in April. During closing arguments, prosecutor Erin Eldridge rejected Potter's claims that she meant to fire her taser, not her pistol, at Wright.
Manslaughter. That she was an officer does not make it okay. That she was on duty does not make it okay. That she shot him with her service pistol does not make it okay. Her actions were rash and reckless, and what she did was wrong.
Kim Potter is
Moving
facing
on.
first-degree manslaughter charges. And Harvard's admissions office has dropped its requirement that applicants submit SAT or ACT standardized test scores after the pandemic limited students' access to testing sites. The new policy will run
Thank you
through at
everybody
least
for being here. Up
2026.
13 on Rocket
Covers
Lab,
the
so far
latest among the growing
1393.
number of US
GameStop
schools to
down
drop
12
the
cents.
standardized testing
Matterport at
requirement, which
168
critics
out of
say favors wealthy
2307.
white applicants
High today
over
on
students of
Matterport
color.
today,
And those are
2325.
some of the
You take
headlines. This is
1.69
Democracy
million
Now!,
shares.
democracynow.org.
ME663 very positive, plus
I'm
2.
in New York, joined by Democracy Now!
Back over
co-host
10,
Juan
10:02 up
Gonzalez in New Brunswick,
64
New
cents.
Jersey. Hi, Juan.
Another recovery there.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Good morning. It's December 21, 2021, and it's a Tuesday. And as most of you already know, but it's nice to say it out loud, today is the shortest day of the year, be the longest night, and from here on out, the days are going to start getting longer. And the the way I look at it, we are headed towards spring. Here in LA, right now a clear morning, a pretty good breeze blowing, about 52 degrees Fahrenheit right now, 11 Celsius. Today I was thinking again about Dave Brubeck, the Dave Brubeck Quartet, and their song, Everybody's Jumpin', from the album Time Out, 1959. This afternoon it'll be going up to 66 degrees Fahrenheit, around 19 Celsius, and it looks like there may be some sun poking out from time to time, but we're going to be mostly cloudy all along the way. Everyone, have a great day.
During the last days of the year for tax selling in Route 180,
Our top story today, of course, is the the fast spread of the Omicron variant. It is now making up 73% of infections in the United States, and we are expecting later today President Joe Biden to be addressing the nation, and it's expected to be an Omicron variant-focused speech as that particular country, and it's obviously not alone, contends with high case numbers, deaths and hospitalizations as we approach the holiday season. No doubt the Royal Service will be keeping up to date with that story. That's it for this edition of News Hour. Thanks for your company this past hour. Till the next time. Bye-bye.
This is the BBC World Service, where we're exploring the potential impacts of artificial intelligence.
Will the progress of AI lead to the end of work?
Artificial intelligence can help humans do a lot of things, but how reliant have we become on it? In his third lecture, Professor Stuart Russell examines the impact of AI on the economy and how the world might adapt as work is increasingly done by machines.
The BBC Reef Lectures at bbcworldservice.com/Reef Lectures. You're listening to the BBC World Service.
Our technology reporter Zoe Kleinman told us more.
I asked our Washington correspondent Chris Buckler what was in this article.
BBC Mundo's Guillermo Moreno joined one of the keys.
Let's speak to our China media analyst Kerry Allen from BBC Monitoring.
This is the BBC World Service on ABC News Radio.
ABC News with David Rowlands. Health authorities in Western Australia are tracing the contacts of 2 COVID-positive people who flew into Perth from Brisbane on Sunday. The pair tested positive while isolating in WA and have reportedly not been in the community except for a brief stop at a Midland petrol station while out to get tested. 4 close household contacts have so far tested negative, while a 5th person is awaiting results. Quarantine requirements in Queensland have changed for fully vaccinated people who come into contact with a positive COVID case. The government has eased the isolation period for close contacts from 14 days to 7. The shortened quarantine directive was initially due to come into effect on New Year's Day, but has been brought forward. That's despite the state recording its highest daily number of cases on Tuesday, 86 new infections. GPs say they are under pressure due to a rise in demand for COVID booster shots. Health authorities in some states are urging the federal government to speed up the schedule for the booster vaccinations as Omicron infections continue to rise. The head of the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, Karen Price, is calling on the government to provide more resources amid the rollout.
There has been a surge, and it's a good surge, so I do want to encourage everybody to make an appointment for their booster, but it may not be quite within the time frame because the general practices have got to be ready. They've got to get the vaccine into their fridge, and they've also got to manage staff downtime over the Christmas break.
Britain's Treasurer has announced new financial measures to support the UK's ailing hospitality industry, which has been disrupted by the Omicron COVID variant. Rishi Sunak has promised or proposed 3 new measures to help employees and businesses, including almost $2 billion in grants and loans to help the industry survive. The Treasurer expressed confidence that the new measures will help, and he says more financial assistance will come when the government announces new COVID restrictions.
Well, I know the current situation is very difficult, especially for those in the hospitality industry. Taken together, I'm confident that these measures will help hundreds of thousands of businesses and the millions of people that they employ.
The man accused of stabbing to death British MP Sir David Amess at a church in Essex in October has pleaded not guilty to murder and planning a terrorist attack. Ali Harbi Ali is accused of repeatedly knifing the 69-year-old Conservative politician in a church hall where he was meeting voters in his constituency. The 25-year-old is due to stand trial in March next year. The killing of the father of 5, which occurred 5 years after another British Member of Parliament was murdered on the street, prompted calls for better protection for lawmakers. The South African President Jacob Zuma has been granted leave to appeal against a ruling that he must return to prison after being released several months ago on medical grounds. The 79-year-old is serving a 15-month sentence for contempt of court after ignoring instructions to participate in a corruption inquiry. He who began medical parole in September, was ordered to return to jail last week. Judge Elias Mahajan says he granted leave to appeal on several grounds.
Warrant says because of his illness and advanced age, he needs compassion, he needs empathy and humaneness. In my view, another court may take this into consideration and come to a different finding.
Spanish police have arrested 2 men who were trying to raffle off Christmas hampers stuffed with drugs, as well as a leg of ham. BBC's Warren Bull reports that officers stumbled upon the raffle during an anti-drug operation in the east of the country.
All over Spain, it's traditional to give hampers full of appetizing goods during the holiday season. But when police raided a suspected drugs den in the city of Murcia, they turned up in the middle of a lottery, where the prizes were 2 festive narco hampers. On the wall was a written list of entrants who paid up to €10 for a ticket and a chance to win a basket full of cocaine, hash, alcohol, tobacco and an 8-kilo cured ham. Police detained the alleged organisers, a Spanish man and an Argentinian, and confiscated 165 marijuana plants, as well as 33 halogen lamps.
And former American President Donald Trump has announced he will hold a news conference on January 6, 1 year after the deadly riots at the US Capitol. Mr. Trump, who has been accused of provoking the attack after claiming President Biden didn't win the election, says he will discuss the events of that day. More than 700 people have been arrested in connection with the assault on the Capitol by the former president's supporters. The news conference will be held at Mr. Trump's resort in Palm Beach, Florida. Take a look at the upcoming capital city weather around the nation for this Wednesday, the 22nd of December. In Brisbane, it's another warm one heading your way, 32 and sunny. Fairly mild in Sydney as well, once again, 27 and partly cloudy. Canberra is in for a steamy day, 30 and mostly sunny. Not so in Melbourne and Hobart though, 20 and 18 respectively under cloudy skies. In Adelaide, cloud will clear and it will eventually reach 27 degrees. While Perth is continuing to heat up, 32 and sunny in the west, and Darwin will have a shower or 2 and a possible storm, en route to a high of 34 degrees.
I'm Dr. Humera Iqbal. Join me as we enter a fascinating and little-known world.
It gives you a really cool understanding of language.
It's a huge part of me, and I love my language. I love it.
You're more like emotionally aware.
It does help you develop a good sense of empathy.
I talked to my friends about it. They all said I was freakishly confident from a young age. And that comes from my upbringing.
I'm never expecting ever.
Really?
Literally never.
Wow.
I'm really good at adults.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's made me who I am, and I hope my mum and dad will never ever feel guilty.
So who are these emotionally switched on, ever punctual, super organised linguists? And what is the childhood secret they share?
What's up, people? It's Tuesday the 21st, first day of winter. I'm sending a message because it's extraordinary. You folks, I appreciate the connection, but I have boundaries, and I need to make this public because I want you folks who are requesting my time in other parts of social media, don't take it personally when I say I don't want to talk or I'm not going to start a conversation with you. Please understand that this is happening to me all the time. All the time, seriously, every day. I'm hearing from, not every day, I can say every week. So few times every week, I get requests for messages to talk or even to call, you know. And I understand it, folks, but I'm setting this boundary. And it may seem, in a way, unfair, because if you lived in Omaha, you know, and maybe invited me out to coffee, I might take you up on it, I might not. But I just want to explain that, you know, I appreciate the appreciation, but I also understand how folks want to talk, you know, on all kinds of levels. And I probably, many of you I would want to talk to as well. But I don't spend time on the internet in conversation. I make videos, I post records, I watch movies, documentaries, I interact with my family, but I'm not on here chit-chatting with people. I've even had people complain to me in the record groups that, you know, all you do is post your records, you know. Well, that's all I want to do. You know, I want to show you what I'm playing. I want to see what you're playing. The occasional bit of information or conversation will pop up that catches my interest and I'll talk a little bit. You folks that just got a hold of me, you know who you are, and please don't take it personally. Don't be upset. Well, I can't tell you not to be upset. I'm just saying. I got to do this, okay? I got to keep it like this because I also have people who are in my history musically who I'm friendly. I love people. So when you encounter me in person, I'm very friendly, you know. And so I have people who are kind of broken. Not kind of, people who have problems, who have glommed onto me, and they'll just write me and start telling me stuff. I don't respond. I had it happen last night, and I felt like I had to respond to this one woman. And then she wanted to keep going and started talking about her family. See, no. Okay? So that's what I'm saying, please. I also understand that good company is in short supply. And that's really another reason why I spend a lot of time alone, is because I like good conversation, but a lot of people don't know how to converse very well at all. The back and forth is what I long for, and most people are unaware that it's a two-way street. It's a give and take. You know, I know how to show interest in you, even if I'm not interested. But for the sake of being together, I'll take that time to give you my attention. I like it when I receive it in return, and that doesn't happen hardly ever at all. One of the people in my life who is, thankfully, and it's amazing, he's so young, but my buddy Blake, he is really turning into a really good friend, and shows interest in me, you know, in my concerns, like I am concerned in him. It's nice when it's reciprocal, but 90% of the time, once the ball gets rolling, the other person just wants to talk about themselves, and I get completely forgotten. Once again, 3 people this morning, just to qualify. It wasn't one, it was 3 people this morning that wanted to chit-chat, get into this and that, and I just said, you know, it's good to hear from you. That's what prompted it, okay? It's like, it wasn't just 1, it wasn't 2, it was 3 this morning. It's like, okay, let me say something, okay? Much love to you all, okay? Seriously, much love to you all. So, musically, it's not really a Christmas song, but I was reminded to play it. Mew, She Came Home for Christmas. It's a CD single by Mew, my boys from Denmark. Wasn't that long ago I had a quick word with Jonas Bjerre, the lead singer of the band. He's got this new project called Tachys, T-A-C-H-Y-S. I like it. I don't imagine I'll be seeing any vinyl from that in this part of the country, but I like the videos. Interesting, one of them is pretty bloody. It's almost like, I wonder if Jonas is expressing, he got divorced a while back, and I wonder if he's processing that. I don't know. That was one of the thoughts I had, because the video was so, it wasn't shocking. It was kind of like, okay, there's a message here. Okay. So yeah. So a couple of records. Let's just do it like that. Okay. So I like progressive rock. I don't like NAF progressive rock. A band that's close to NAF to me is Dream Theater. The music is great. I cannot stand those vocals. Here is an example of a modern progressive rock band. Well, they're already gone, but I think this is almost perfect, in my opinion, of what a good progressive rock album is. Kino, this picture. All these guys have background. It Bites. Chris Maitland, the drummer here, was the original drummer for Porcupine Tree. And as much as I like Porcupine Tree, I don't think Porcupine Tree has made an album this good. And I like Porcupine Tree and I collect them. And Kino made another album after this and it doesn't touch this. This is kind of like this was a one-off. This makes me cry. Okay? It's not the words, it's the feeling. There's a soaring feeling of I'm trying to get through to you in a lot of these songs. Very emotional. And the drumming is very emotional, very propulsive. And I can understand why Chris Maitland wanted to leave Porcupine Tree when they went in a metal direction and got Gavin Harrison. Gavin Harrison as a drummer is a great technician, but he has no feeling. It's very cold, clinical. Chris, on the other hand, that's what I liked about the early Porcupine Tree with his drumming, is that he would explode. There'd be times he's playing, then he'll feel something and he'll play it, and it's an explosion. I love that. Tony Williams was good at that in his drumming. That he was also always playing very propulsively, but things would rise to the surface that would explode out of him. And that happens with Chris Maitland's drumming in Porcupine Tree and also this album. This, I think, is one of the best modern progressive albums made. And people like those kind of comments. So I will also say this: when people ask me, what's your favorite this, favorite that, my mind begins a clusterfuck. But once I get talking about something, I can start to say, well, this, and this. But I don't think in those terms of favorites anymore, not at all. Nebraska band, For Against. You guys know about these guys? They're friends of mine. I was just, someone online last night posted this album, this 3-record box set, December. And I thought to myself, yeah, it's December, solstice, let's play this. And great album, great band. Seriously, one of the bands that I think helped to establish what we consider dream pop. Heard from Jeff Brunnings, the leader of the band, this morning, because I posted this on my Facebook after listening to it as well. He thanked me and invited me out for coffee. Had some great shows with For Against back in the day. And yeah, For Against, one of Nebraska's greatest, truly. Played some great shows with them while I was in the band Digital Sex. German rock band, Kin King Man. This is a collector's item. For some reason, this album, you can't get it for cheaper than $300. And it's not krautrock. It's the Germans still emulating American rock, but it's got this feeling different from America. The picture, there's a warm, sunny summer, very good type of feeling to this album. They do a great version of the Beatles come together on this. That's just a horrible cover. So the For or Against play last night led me to playing this because it's a similar sound. Sad Lovers and Giants, do you know this band? Cowboys. 12-inch single. My band Digital Sex, we used to cover one of their songs, Big Tracks, Little Tracks. Love this band. It still sounds great. Seriously. Find out about this band if you don't know them. And if you like that, any shoegaze, post-rock, dream pop, any of that stuff, if you're interested in, check out Sad Lovers and Cowboys, Sad Lovers and Giants. Here's a record that came to me through the VC from I wonder if he's passed away. I can't think of his name. Some people have passed away. This is a German fella, and he did have health problems. I think he's gone. He's the one that had Bruno send his album to me. But Bruno Andrew Lee, Hope Beyond the Menace. This is electronic. It's very much in the school of Tangerine Dream, arpeggiated, bubbling. Synthesizers are really good. Seriously good. Not copying Tangerine Dream, but showing ability and a bit of mastery with the electronics. It's a very good album. So, as always, people, let me know how you're doing. I hope you understand me, where I'm coming from. Don't mean nobody no harm. Okay? And be safe. I am personally, I've just decided that I'm basically in an isolation mode right now. I went to the store again this morning, and again, it's just really sad how many people are out in public unmasked. And I'll say it again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I don't have direct knowledge about COVID, the fact that it exists or doesn't. But something is not right with the world, and it seems to be this virus. And so I'm paying attention to it, and I'm going to do my part. And I kind of do wish that we had more people thinking collectively rather than, my rights, my rights. Okay. Hello.
Chosen the slow climb.
So hello, folks. It appears that
all the latest market action from the local bourse and beyond. So what are we waiting for? The S&P ASX 200 closed up Tuesday gaining 62.80 points or 0.86% and crossing above its 20-day moving average. The top performing stocks in this index were Nanosonics up 7.63% and Paladin Energy up 5.70%. The index has lost 0.32% for the last 5 days, but sits 3.64% below its 52-week high. And let's now look at what drove the markets today. The share market shrugged off weak leads and record COVID numbers in New South Wales as robust consumer confidence data suggested Australians were learning to live with Omicron, and the Prime Minister ruled out further lockdowns. Stocks crept higher after a gauge showed consumer confidence successfully weathering the recent surge in COVID cases in New South Wales. The Australia and New Zealand Banking Group's confidence index improved 0.4% last week to 108.4 for a third straight gain. Confidence in New South Wales jumped 4.5%. And moreover, Prime Minister Scott Morrison this morning said the nation had to move from government mandates to personal responsibility. He said that we are not going to back lockdowns and not shutting people's lives. Importantly, the minutes from this month's Reserve Bank meeting showed the board recognised the threat from Omicron but did not anticipate a major impact on the economy. The minutes said that the emergence of the Omicron variant was a new source of uncertainty, but it was not expected to derail the recovery. Coming back to the markets now, the electric vehicle and lithium stocks plunged on the ASX today after US President Joe Biden's $2 trillion stimulus plan under the Build Back Better identifier failed to get enough indicative support in the US Senate. The planned legislation earmarked heavy subsidies for the US electric vehicle and green energy industries. Popular green energy and lithium plays on the local market took a bath in response. And Novonix was down 4.8%, Pilbara Minerals was down 11.6%, and Vulcan Resources was down as well, 4.5%. Liontown Resources was down 3.2%. And now let's look at the ASX listed companies that were in the news today. Shares in online meal delivery business Marley Spoon jumped 17.3% to 81.5 cents. It announced the acquisition of Melbourne-based ready meal business Chef Good for an initial $21 million. Earn-out clauses could add another $5.6 million to the deal's costs over the next 2.5 years. And Marley Spoon said it would fund the deal by an $8 million share placement at $1 per ASX-listed CDI, which is equal to about 43% premiums to its last closing price of 69.5 cents. Shares in the $2.3 billion pre-revenue biotech Imugene are down 6% to 39.5 cents this morning and down about 24% since December 13. It revealed its founder, Paul Hopper, had sold 75 million shares on market. And on Monday it revealed director Charles Walker had sold 7.76 million shares on market on December 15th for prices between 52 cents and 54.2 cents per share. Mr. Walker has now sold shares on market twice in 2021, and the biotech has yet to get any of its potential cancer treatment products into phase 3 stage clinical trials. Despite today's falls, Imugene shares have soared 300% higher in 12 months. The ASX-listed telecommunication service provider FlexiRoam announced that it has extended its global data plan partnership with MasterCard, covering the calendar year 2022. The extended contract continues to operate on regular commercial terms and will also pay $250,000 to the company for purchasing data, which are offered to cardholders as a reward. And on the other hand, the unused data from 2020 and 2021 will expire on the 31st of December 2021. And on the ASX, the FlexiRoam stock was spotted trading at 4.65% lower, reaching 0.041 Australian dollars per share. Pilbara Minerals shares slumped 8.5% on Tuesday after the lithium miner cut guidance for lithium spodumene concentrate production over the December quarter and financial year 2022. It now expects to ship 85,000 to 95,000 tonnes of spodumene concentrate over the December quarter versus prior guidance of between 90 to 115,000 tonnes. Total shipped tonnes are now expected to reach between 380 and 440,000 tonnes in financial year 2022.
Hey, Jake says, Uncle Bruce, if you ever want to
Memphasis announced that it has reached a significant milestone with the first commercial sale of the Felix TM system. A women's centre in Coimbatore, India, has ordered a Felix TM system for use in their IVF centre. And moreover, Memphasis specialises in bioseparations and reproductive biotechnology. And on the ASX, Memphasis was trading at 0.094 Australian dollars. And we've reached the time for a short break, but please stay with us. We'll be back with more.
Hilariously bad. And let's go Smart Rent, says Abico. Yeah, right on. Smart Rent right now, 10.19 up 81 cents. Cyxtera 12.02 up 22 right now. So definitely improving there. Still ATIP up 12 now to 321. Spire has gone red to be at 337, down 2 cents.
News coming in. More than a third of Australia's largest listed companies have poor modern slavery disclosures indicating they don't understand the risks in their supply chains, according to a new report. And Monash University researchers analysed the quality of supply chains according modern slavery disclosures indicating they don't understand the risks in their supply chains, according to a new report. And Monash University researchers analysed the quality of 239 modern disclosure statements from ASX 300 companies introduced after Australia created new laws to root out the problem and graded each disclosure between A and F. In a report published today, fail grades were assigned to 36% of companies according to the report, while only 6 companies were given the top mark. And Fortescue Metals Group and Wesfarmers were among the nation's leaders, while Nanosonics and InvoCare were among the worst, the report said.
You're allowed to make
And now,
mistakes.
before we wrap up the show, let's take a look at why the global merger and acquisitions activity has smashed records and topped $7.9 trillion this year. New data shows global merger and acquisitions activity over the past 12 months totaled $7.9 trillion Australian dollars, smashing previous all-time records. According to figures from the technology company Dealogic, merger and acquisitions activity increased by 63% in 2021 to smash the pre-global financial crisis record of $6.2 trillion Australian dollars in 2007. And among the biggest deals inked throughout the year are AT&T's planned merger of Warner Media and fellow entertainment business Discovery for $60.4 billion Australian dollars. In Australia, the biggest acquisition was Afterpay's $39 billion sale to US fintech Block, formerly known as Square. The deal looks set to be completed shortly, with Block shareholders signing off on the biggest acquisition in Australian history. And more recently, the healthcare giant CSL announced it would buy Swiss-based pharmaceutical company Vifor Pharma for $16.4 billion. And with that, that's a wrap, folks. Hope you found the market closer commentary informative, but we will be back tomorrow live from Sydney at about 9:30 in the morning with the first report on the pre-market scenario, along with the important updates from the global markets to prepare you for your day of trading. But that's all for now. Take care and stay safe. Safe signing off.
337 in the forecast for Spire when it screamed up to 19 that week. Good grief. SoFi gonna pop in January, I think. Michael thinks so too. Dr. G, Uncle Bruce, thoughts on my GameStop 160 covered call expiring 12/23?
A lot of ingredients.
Buyback or
business near the end of the year. Now, with the sudden change, all the ingredients are left unattended, and I have too many workers. My business is going very badly. The government really doesn't think enough.
정부가 참
I personally think those small business owners like myself should gather and protest in front of the presidential office. I hope there will be a big protest so that our voices can be delivered directly to the presidential office.
And we could quickly take a look at Micron's results. As data centers and electric vehicle manufacturers drove demand for chips, Micron Technology has delivered stronger quarterly results than expected. It also forecast second quarter sales and profits that will beat estimates with chip shortages easing next year. Micron also disclosed it has struck deals with its own suppliers to ease bottlenecks in its supply chain. The company makes both NAND memory chips that serve data storage market and DRAM memory chips, DRAM also, they're called, that are widely used on data centers, personal computers and other devices. Micron's shares, they were up 5.7% to 87.70 in extended tradings after results. Strong demand and an industry-wide shortage of chips have also allowed Micron, one of the world's biggest memory chip makers, to charge higher prices. Micron said data center revenue was up 70% and automotive revenue was up 25%, with automotive growth coming from increasing amount of memory required in cars with advanced driver safety systems. WION now available in your country.
Our PS aweze kumaliza yesu chake. Kwa tumeona bwana CS bwana cabinet secretary sisi ya
inaongezeka. Tukiwa serikali tutajitahidi, na inachukua serikali karibu miaka 5. Hao familia wataishi namna gani?
Smart rent 10, 15 up 77 cents. 6
Hao familia wataishi namna gani? So tungeomba Bwana Boynet, ukitoka hapa, let us have a policy.
Right here, right now.
The period as to when
up 66
or
how long it
takes
for a compensation to be paid.
732 to 378.93.
It should not take forever.
379 range.
Hizi ni compensation ambao ni karibu miaka 6-8 iliyopita.
Pushing the envelope.
Kama ni familia ambao walipoteza mama yao ama baba yao, utapata wale watoto wote wako nyumbani. The compensation is taking too long.
Kama kuna compensation ile zingine nafikiri tuko na mwakilishi wa senata alikuwa anasema nataka kusalamia watu. Makofi wananchi, tupige makofi. 28 million,
yeah, I would.
510,000.
I take the money, Mirko, sell them now, because you're going to get redeemed out. You sell them now, or you're going to either get stock or a dime for each of them. Sell them now. Take the money on your Sextera warrants. Everybody, sell your Sextera warrants now. Cash out. It's free. Take the money. Michael says,
Nyoka iliniuma mikono na nikakimbizwa kwa hospitali na nikatibiwa.
Mimi nakuja kwa niaba ya mtoto. Ilipata majira ya wanyama ya msituni. Nyoka aliumwa yeye na alikaa baada ya muda ya mwaka moja na nusu akaanza kupona.
We are doing all this in full realization that our wildlife resources form the bedrock of our tourism industry. Because as of today, the bulk of visitation to our country, either from the outside or even within the country, to our touristic sites, is on account of our wildlife resources.
Tangu tuanze hii program, serikali imejitahidi mpaka wakati huu wamelipa 2.4 billion kwa hiyo miaka karibu 4. 2.4 billion. Hiyo ni kidogo sana. Na kwa sababu ina
Rose Jacobs here with you for Kalkine Media. The world is transitioning towards green energy and mobility solutions as countries aim to achieve carbon neutrality in upcoming decades. Before we get started with this topic, make sure you hit that bell icon at the bottom of your screen for all the latest updates. Electric vehicles along with renewables provide the best combination to achieve the 2050 net zero commitments. In the current era, we have witnessed the electrification of almost everything, ranging from toothbrushes to electric vehicles. The increased utilisation of portable gadgets and advancement in technology has stimulated the use of batteries and, in turn, battery metals. Lithium-ion batteries are being used predominantly as the power source for a diverse range of gadgets and vehicles. Despite various commercial vehicles, electric cars, portable gadgets and electric bikes gaining ground, their limited range, high prices and unsupportive infrastructure are delaying a rapid turnover. So, what are the limitations of LIBs? The extensive search for securing a reliable supply of critical and rare earth metals to power batteries has slowed the mega-scale electrification plan. Furthermore, limitations of LIBs coupled with the global chip shortage have derailed the projected growth plan. The industry is looking for alternatives that can be utilised in the manufacturing of batteries to minimise shortcomings of LIBs and other popular batteries, which are currently holding the charge for electrification. For electric vehicles and tech gadgets to come into more widespread use, batteries must become more economical, powerful, sustainable and durable. Hence, sodium batteries are geared up to dethrone LIBs. Several automakers and battery players are trying hard to get a breakthrough in battery technology. Battery players are working to create more efficient, powerful and longer range batteries by exploring more and more options to sustainably replace lithium from batteries. Sodium is becoming quite popular among battery manufacturers for making new age batteries, as it is positioned near lithium in the periodic table, holding similar properties. Sodium-ion batteries can provide a critical advantage to customers by providing a cost-effective and sustainable solution. Additionally, sodium-ion batteries offer increased safety. However, the energy density of these batteries is lower than that of LIBs. The issue is likely to improve in the future with more research and development in the area. So, we ask, can SIBs replace LIBs? Though it is quite hard to predict the future of SIVs. Various battery manufacturers are exploring this opportunity for their upcoming products in the market. But that's a wrap for this video. Please check out the website for plenty more info, kalkinemedia.com. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe to the channel. I'm Rose Jacobs. Thanks for joining me today.
For traveling with Bruce, and you can pick up caps for stock markets with Bruce if you like. You can get those. Fabulous. You can always pick up your own outfits with it, like this if you really make a big move. You can always do that, and you can always get yourself dressed up real swanky like Jen and I get dressed up all the time. Absolutely the best, man. There is always that.
Finally, the man of many characters,
so
Vishnu Kaushal. So, let's go and meet them.
This afternoon at
Fab.
3 o'clock.
As we joins us from Ukraine, now Gulliver Craig. Gulliver, I mean, what was the build-up first of all to today, 30 years ago? How did Kiev and Moscow's path actually begin to diverge in the first place?
Happy to see that. Looks like SoFi is coming on a little bit, just a titch. And Matterport might be pushing 23 again. It's 22.94 now. That's good.
Referendum on the 1st of December 1991 when more than 92% of Ukrainians voted for independence, and that includes majorities in Crimea and in Donbass and in other Russian-speaking regions of Ukraine. So there was a lot of enthusiasm for independence in Ukraine at that time, but that was probably more to do with people's dissatisfaction with the way the Soviet Union was working out than with really, really strong patriotic Ukrainian sentiment and desire for that independence, which has always been something that has been shared only by a part of the Ukrainian population. But I think it's fair to say that that part of the Ukrainian population that really feels strongly attached to Ukrainian nationhood, Ukrainian statehood, has only grown over the past 30 years. And the main reason for that really is, I suppose, that Ukraine has remained a democracy, whilst Russia has descended into some kind of authoritarianism. Ukraine and Russia, after the fall of the Soviet Union, both had this very, very quick transition to capitalism, which led to communist assets being sold off and oligarchs getting their hands on them. But while in the early 2000s, Vladimir Putin basically brought all of the oligarchs either under his control or forced them into exile and took control over the country for the state. In Ukraine, there was a plurality of oligarchs who had rivalries between each other, and that, although it's a very imperfect democracy, led to there continuing to be in Ukraine different political forces vying for power, and that basically preserved democracy in Ukraine. And Ukrainians have voted on most occasions for more pro-Western oriented governments. When there was an attempt at fraud to install the pro-Russian leader in 2004, there was the Orange Revolution. Ukrainians took to the streets. Viktor Yanukovych didn't manage to become president then. He's a Russia-friendly leader. He did manage to win an election fair and square in 2010, and then again in 2014, after his government had really given itself up to quite extreme levels of corruption and refused at the last minute to sign an association agreement with the European Union that it had promised to sign. Then Ukrainians overthrew him again, and since then the government has really been very, very clearly pro-European, although there are still quite sizable pro-Russian minorities in Ukraine. They're even in the majority in cities like Odessa in the south. The parliament is absolutely dominated by pro-European forces who are determined to move away from the Russian orbit.
As I mentioned at the top there, Vladimir Putin called the fall of the Soviet Union as this geopolitical catastrophe. I mean, many believing that really Russia's loss of Ukraine was central and perhaps the key element to that. How worried then are Ukrainians now with the Kremlin's refusal, if you like, to accept that?
157.37.
Well, with the recent days, Russian rhetoric, in recent days, I think has made Ukrainians more worried. The reaction to the troop build-up that there's been over the past few weeks and voicing the US voicing great concerns over build-up of Russian troops just outside Ukraine's borders was quite cool-headed in Ukraine for quite a long time, with them saying Putin would just never risk something like a full-scale invasion. But the way that the Russians have been talking about it in recent days, the kinds of demands that they're leveling, has got Ukrainians thinking maybe he actually is prepared to risk everything to try to win back control of Ukraine. And the real question is, if Putin is determined to basically win back really a great deal of influence over Ukraine, and it's not just about security, but the prize really is Ukraine itself. Then the question is, has Putin reached the conclusion that he cannot get that back by any other means than by military means, because he doesn't think Ukrainians are ever going to vote in a pro-Russian government again? And if you think of it that way, then it does rather send a shiver down your spine if you're living in Ukraine.
Interesting.
Galva, thanks very much. Galva Krang, our correspondent, joining us there from Ukraine.
860 gain now on Goldman. 380.27.
The COVID pandemic has presented many challenges, but for those providing social services, Australia's lockdowns may have pushed them to the brink. An Australian Council of Social Service report claims 80% of the service providers surveyed saw an increase in demand, and more than half saw a jump in the number of people they had to turn away, with just 6% reporting they could keep up with requests for help.
And actually, crucially for migrant and multicultural services, only 2%. So we've got services telling us really clearly that the demand is way exceeding what they're capable of delivering under their current funding.
Movat Al-Trasi came to Australia as a Palestinian refugee. She says the support she received from Sydwest was crucial in helping her navigate the complexities of establishing a new life in Australia.
They didn't just give the services, but they teach us, because they need us to be independent. They need us to be part of this society.
But the past 12 months have put additional strain on a sector that says it's already stretched.
If you're new to this country, you don't necessarily have the networks and connections that you need, and you're very dependent on services like ours to make those connections for you. And so when services have been, limited, it's been more and more difficult for our clients, and we've had to adjust.
The issue isn't just confined to an increase in the number of people seeking assistance. There's also been a spike in the complexity of their problems, with COVID compounding issues such as unemployment, homelessness and domestic violence.
They're the added complexities that an organisation like ours are starting to see as a growing demand, and we're having to pivot and adjust our service delivery to meet those. And that's not an easy task for us to do.
The Council is calling for greater funding for support organisations and those on welfare.
About 1 million people currently on job seeker and on youth allowance. During the pandemic, the supplements helped those people to have enough money to afford food, but right now those are back to almost the same as the pre-pandemic levels, which is just well below the poverty line.
Kath Landers, SBS World News.